Better? Yes. Okay. So we'll go back to budget presentations. Today, budget priorities and deliberations. Again, we'll talk about what you all would like to see based off of our recommendations yesterday. Master fee schedule. We'll take theoretically we'll take a break in between there. We'll get to the master fee schedule, any changes or proposed changes, and then looking ahead after lunch, possibly future challenges. What our debt maintenance looks like. Talk a little bit about the landfill, what the wastewater treatment plant looks like, and then a way to look at expanding the fire department, and then we'll wind up with a 10-year framework, if you will, based off the spreadsheets that you have in front of you. We'll show a PowerPoint version of that up on the screen, obviously, for the folks watching online, but that has a lot more detail than what the PowerPoint will. So the PowerPoint will have some of the highlights on it, but that has a lot more detail. Okay. Pending any questions, we'll get right into the budget deliberations. If we could pull up the city's recommendation or the staff's recommendation on the CI proposal. And it is slide 23. Was the city's proposal? I got it. Maybe. It just died on me, Jacob. Can you manually advance it to slide 23? Oh, there, it worked a little bit.
Is that one of those little watch batteries?
Maybe.
I actually have one in my truck.
No, I'm sorry. These are AAAs. Nope. I've got it going on now. Okay. So, nope. Got it. We're good. So, option 2 is what the city recommended. As far as you see the major pieces of equipment on the left-hand side, with the branch plan that sees us purchasing the animal control truck and the fleet's F-250, leasing the 5 vehicles we talked about yesterday, starting up an energy assessment pilot, insulate the maintenance hangar, community development, their GPS locator, and a skid steer auger attachment that actually needs to come off. So that the 12.2 is correct, but the skid steer has already been purchased this year. Their current one broke ahead of schedule, and we actually paid for it for less than 5.7. So that was my mistake. That auger is not on the. No, it's on both of them. But again, the 12.2 is correct. It's neither of them have the skid steer option in them. So that's what staff is recommending. What do you all want to change, want to see different? Or do you want to go with option 1?
Can you spend a minute talking about the Badger Lee water loop, and since that's option 1?
Yes, sir.
And just dig into that just a hair more.
So the Badger Lee water loop encompasses area of the city that was annexed in 1984. There was one parcel that was annexed in 1986. State law says that within, I believe, 5 years, city services have to be extended to any annexed property. Technically, they do have city water. However, the loop has never been updated. It's been repaired when necessary, but it's never been updated and consistently installed. What I mean by consistently installed, if you go up there, the diameter of the service lines are widely varied throughout and it's not even looped. It goes up, it goes down Badger Lee, Pinto, but as it turns onto 17, it stops right there at the church. It does not continue down and loop with the rest of that water line. So you've got 2-inch service lines. I believe there's 3-inch up there. There's 1.5 inch, and they bounce back and forth between them. with that size service line, we can't put uh, fire hydrants up there. Fire hydrants require a 6-inch line, and that's what the plan recommends or is permitted for, is to put a 6-inch loop all the way around with fire hydrants up there as well. So very similar to what we did to Drake last year, or what we finished last year on Drake, up Shiloh, and we closed that loop down Lennington, brought the loop down Shiloh and back to Drake, and down toward 59 there. So that would be a very similar project of what we're talking about as far as technically what we're doing. All right. Is that better? Okay, where'd we lose the mic?
Probably left.
Say all after Badger Lee. Okay, so what it would do, in effect, what it would do is, one, it would actually install a loop in that area that's now dead ends. It would also provide the homeowners the opportunity to get some relief on their homeowners insurance, as there would be access to fire hydrants in that area. And it's very similar, again, very similar to what we did not down Lennington. Lennington had a line, but we looped Shiloh and Drake to 59. We finished that project last year. I believe we started it the year before, but we finished it last year.
Such an expensive project. It's hard to keep kicking that can down the road.
It is, and I think part of our discussions, a lot of our discussions this afternoon is gonna kind of be addressing some of that kind of stuff. A way to tackle that. I don't know that that needs to be tackled in the budget this year in comparison to the other things that are possible, I guess you could say.
I think there's a way to put together a long-term plan, tackle all these cans.
Yeah.
So what the mayor's alluding to is there's and he kind of alluded to it last session, was as these bonds end, is there a way to go back to the taxpayer, go back to the voter, and present an infrastructure only continuance? So that half-cent that would expire for one of the bonds in 2030 would then be dedicated to infrastructure only. That would provide us approximately $1 million a year, all of it in bulk up front, obviously, to get after some of this deferred maintenance. It's an option that we can explore. Yeah, but as you'll see this afternoon, there's a lot of wastewater treatment plant, landfill, this deferred maintenance. There's a lot of significantly expensive asks, and honestly needs that are coming up here probably in the next 5 to 10 years.
Can we change the subject real quick?
Yes, sir.
Yep. Energy assessment pilot. Why do you think that's important? Why do you think we should do that now? You think
So what it would allow us to do, or what it would allow us to do is one, looking left and right. Some of our peer cities offer this in partnership with their wholesale provider. OG&E offers something like this to their customers. I think it's once every 5 years. Theirs is a little bit more involved, a little bit more of a technical expert doing it. So this pilot program would be checklist deep. Wouldn't send anybody out there to actually mess with anybody's HVAC or mess with anybody's electrical system. This is just as I envision it, this is a checklist. I come into your home, say, "Sir, ma'am, I'm Brian Heverly. I'm here from the city. I'm here to help." You know, after we get over the initial fear that strikes in people. There's a joke there. Sorry, it's early. Come on, folks. It's Wednesday. Keep up. Keep up. All right.
The scariest words.
Exactly. I'm from the government. I'm here to help. But what we would do is we would go into their home at their request, go into their home and just do an assessment of the efficiency of their home and give them an idea of things that they could very easily do on their own, and then things that they may want to look at to budget for and to save up for. So things like, "Sir, ma'am, the nameplate on your HVAC system says it was installed or it was built 15 years ago. Have you maintained it? When was the last time you had anybody come out and service it?" If it's 15 years old, one, the machine is probably fairly inefficient, and if it's never been maintained, it probably needs a good dose of refrigerant. And probably an HVAC inspector would be able to say, "Hey, you've got pinholes in your coils, you're losing the refrigerant, et cetera, et cetera." So there's just, again, giving that homeowner on the high end, when we're talking about HVAC and expensive things that they can budget for, giving them things to look for that would help with their utility bills. And then also simple things. We would bring in kits with a couple of LED light bulbs. We bring in kits with smart power strips, leave them with the resident, show them how to use them, leave them with the resident, have not enough for everything, but have enough for one or two exterior doors to say, "Hey, look, when you shut your door and you see daylight through it, you need to put weather stripping, and here's weather stripping," and show them how to do one or two of their doors. Just things like that. Very easy, not time intensive, not hard physically to do. But again, not at the level of, "Hey, I've got a technical expert that's hooking machinery up to their house or hooking machinery up to their HVAC. I'm not doing an HVAC assessment. I'm just giving you your information." You folks may not know, especially if they rent. Hey, this is just things that they could take to their landlord and say, "Hey, I just had an assessment done by the city. Can you look at some of this stuff?" And your windows. Something as simple as if you look at your windowsill on the inside, and there's cracks in the paint, that's a crack, and that's a way for air to get through. So just run a thin seal of caulk on the inside of your windows, on the inside of your windowsills where your windowsill meets your wall, things like that.
I think the idea is good. I'm a little bit concerned about the effectiveness and the risk it puts on the employees of the city, trying to go to somebody's house and tell them what. How much is it gonna be effective?
So it would be first come, first serve. Figure out how far $15,000 could go. Figure out how far what our availability is. Again, it's a pilot program. Is it 100 homes? Is it 150 homes? Not a lot, obviously. It's single tech, and people would sign up for it. It's not we're not going into your home. I'm not telling you when we're showing up. It's hey, if you want it, we'll come out and bring it to you. So it's completely voluntary, available for homeowners or renters.
Maybe have some kids or something.
And that's where the majority, if not all of the cost would come from, is the kids.
Is this not something GRDA will assist with?
GRDA doesn't currently have any partnership program like this. They provide us the city.
The website says they do. Now, whether or not they've been doing that with us, but there's a lot of stuff on their website about this kind of stuff.
Okay, I will double check, but that's news to me.
It's maybe old, not updated or something.
Is that something? Have you heard it? Yeah.
Do what?
As we look into the future, there are things that that are negotiation asks as they look to ask us to extend our service agreement with them. These are some of the things that I'm asking for. I've laid the seeds. We haven't had any in-depth discussions yet. We haven't had anything. It's just preliminary hey, this is where we're going and we're going to come ask you to extend your service agreements. Well, these are some of the things where I'm looking left and right. Doing due diligence, is OMPA an option? I'm not even sure if it is an option. We're pretty, GRDA's got a lot of investment here that they'd want to recoup that investment. So, uh, you know, OMPA does some of these things with their communities. So for instance, OMPA will partner with their community, a 50-50 match with the community, but provide a rebate for high efficiency appliances. If you replace your HVAC that meets this threshold, your water heater that meets this threshold, you'll get a rebate. Um, I don't have a dollar amount off the top of my head, but you get a rebate. That rebate is actually funded 50-50 between the city and OMPA. So, and again, OG&E comes in every 3 years and does a professional assessment of your home. Seals up your home, does an air test. They'll hook up devices to your HVAC and do an assessment, do an energy efficiency assessment of how your HVAC is operating. And they'll do that every couple years, several years. I don't know if it's 3 or 5, but so there are things that other competitors, other communities have that we currently don't. And this is an internal stab, if you will, at doing something like this. Proof of principle concept that's fairly inexpensive is a thought process behind it. And if it's a hit, great, we can expand it. We can look to expand it. We take it to GRDA and say, hey, look, you want to help us fund this? We could be a pilot program for them, or if they're already operating this way.
Has it on their website, and they have public power partners, and they have GRDA's logo with it. So I don't know, maybe they spend some of their community dollars.
We're gonna have to look into it. Yeah. And we spend our community dollars supporting community events, whether it's Diamond Days, so we do spend that. We do receive that money from them. Theoretically, we could use that for this program, but we spend that on other community events throughout the year.
It's a small, overall, it's a small cost, and it would be interesting if it worked, that if we're gonna go that route, I think it needs to be on a short leash. Definitely don't wanna get,
I like the idea of having people sign up for it versus us go to their house and. hey,
Oh, yes, sir. It would be completely voluntary. We're not,
Almost to the point where like, if you want a kit to help you with your efficiency, here's a kit that we can provide. That'd be the minimal, you can come in your house too, if you want to. The other thing is there's gonna be a lot of people that rent and, there's only so much you can do with a renter, that a landlord's not necessarily gonna do for them.
yeah. And the intent, so we're not fixing anything.
Right.
It's just an assessment to give the homeowner information so that they can make decisions, or the renter to make decisions as they go through their own situation. But it is absolutely not designed to be a long-term fix to anything. We're not replacing doors. We're not replacing windows. All we're doing is saying, hey, your windows are single pane windows and they're 25 years old.
Who they use the Stillwater Utility Authority contractor. They do the attic and crawl spaces, home ceiling, duct system, heating and cooling, windows and doors, lighting and appliances considerations, but they're maxed out right now. They're not taking.
So that sounds like what OG&E will do, is they have contractors or.
GRDA gives them some funding for that, and then once the limits reach.
I can tell you that every time I brought it up with GRDA, they're like, hey, that's something we can look into. There was no, so that may be something Stillwater's doing on their own as well. I don't know.
And maybe they just added their logo on there because of the partnership.
Let's check on that. The Clearwell tank maintenance line item at 150,000, is that an accurate number?
So that is accurate for the outside of the clear well. That does not include a complete overhaul of the inside. That is a little more pricey. We are going to have to go out for bid, even at that cost. What we'll do is we'll go out for bid for that. And the contractor that gave us that we did pay $5,000 to have all of the tanks. We've got pictures of the inside of the tanks and everything else. The long-term fix for those is probably cost prohibitive. To do it annually, that would be a target for an infrastructure bond or an infrastructure one-shot kind of thing. But right now what we have is cost prohibitive. It's $650,000 the first year, $350,000 for the next 5 years, plus $150,000 the last year. Again, cost prohibitive. I can absolutely see if that's what was in front of our predecessors. I can absolutely see why they yeah. So we would go out to other competitors and have this bid out. I'm looking at Jared and he's shaking his head north and south. So we go out to other companies that do this, see what they say, and get a better overall picture of what's needed long term. But the 150 is the exterior of the clear well.
Can we talk power plant feasibility? I personally am not in favor of feasibility study. I just think it's long-term not the solution.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Spending $100,000 or so on something that I don't even think that, the numbers would have to come back so spectacularly, which I believe the upper level discussions you've already had with Stillwater and some examples and things. We're in an environment right now where this is probably the most expensive time ever to build a power plant because so many people are. Everybody's looking at the energy side. So I think what we would wind up finding out is it would be a longer term project than what we even expect because we're going to be getting in line for some of these other plants to build things. And I just, I have a hard time thinking that encumbering the citizens with all of that debt on a crapshoot that it could save a little bit of money at some point. Although the initial numbers say that it probably won't. I don't see where that. To me, it just seems like $100,000 that will be wasted.
Especially if we get into a situation where we emergently have to take care of something again down the road and we're under so much debt. It's a risky situation. What do y'all think?
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think $120,000 for a study is a bit much. I, on the other hand, minus the price tag, would like to own an electric.
We own an electric company.
We do.
own the power.
Okay, we own a power. I'd like to own a power plant, just for more control. But I ain't into $450 million right now for it.
And to be fair, we're looking the power plant right now. The cost would be somewhere between 135 to 100 to 150 million. The 450 number came from what is the size of the plant that GRDA has completed. That plant cost them $520 million. That's where the lower number comes from. Is the 40? If we're looking at 50 to 70, then it's $1 million a kilowatt. It's not. Even at scale, it's not $1 million a kilowatt. So you're looking at that same plant being built today would cost $800 million, which is $2 million per kilowatt. So our plant would cost at that scale 135 to 140 kilowatts. I'm not sure that like I said yesterday, that 135 is probably low, and that's for construction. That wouldn't include purchasing the land. That wouldn't include any kind of a consultant to help us through that process, which we would absolutely require.
That's assuming that the feasibility study comes back and says this is all you need.
Yes. Well, what the feasibility study would do is, at least one of the questions I would ask them to in our RFP would be to, what do we need, based off of what our predicted loads are going to be for ourselves, what we would use, and then how much revenue we would need to generate, what that load translates to, and then those two combined is the size plant we need or would want to build and go after. And again, the 50 to 70 is a swag from me. So I'm not an expert in this, but that's a starting point.
The risk, the risk side of that, we've talked about a lot of this deferred maintenance and, wanting to stop kicking that down the road before something major happens, where we all of a sudden got to come up with $2 million to get something fixed immediately. You have a power plant like that, the risk on that is it's not $2 million if something goes bad, it's 10. And I just don't feel like we're in a position that we can swing that easily, in a catastrophic situation.
Plus, I would argue that we don't need to.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be nice to, sure, it'd be nice to own a power plant, but we need to. Are we gonna solve anything like it? At least right now.
Yeah, those initial conversations that have been had, it's not gonna solve problems really. I don't think.
Now, on one side of the coin, I'd like to say my research is better than nothing, but it is unprofessional. I mean, this is not my area of expertise at all. However, it does the little bit of insight that I've been able to gather. I question as to whether or not, I absolutely question as to whether or not it would solve the issue as presented the past 90 days, lower my rates and lower them now. I would question those if we address that issue worded that way with a power plant period. I don't think there's a way to do that to meet those two requirements. I'm less certain about the lower my rates portion. I'm absolutely certain that now is not 5 to 8 years from now. And that's exactly what it would be. There just isn't a way to get it through permitting, through SPP's queue. Sir, like you said, the wait line for some of the components, there just isn't a way to get through that in less than that amount of time.
And if you look at everybody else that has power plants, their operational costs and everything combined is not presenting to their municipalities a utility rate that is low.
No.
Compared,
No, I mean, I've gone through so much time on that and gone through so many rates all over the place. There's just not much difference. On the national level, we're still lower than everybody on the national level by far. Even on the local level, I mean, we're right there in line with everybody. I mean, there's nobody that's extremely low.
And part of that comes from the misconception that if we have a power plant, we're producing our own power and we're using our own power, and then we're selling anything excess that we're producing. When you're part of a power pool, you may not be using your power. It's inconsistent. There may be days where our power plant isn't spun up at all, and we're buying power as part of the pool. We're buying power from folks that are producing it. But that's part of being that pool. That's part of SPP's process, is that there may be days where we're not using our own power. And that's the misconception, is if we're producing our own at cheap, or because we're doing it, we're not playing the middleman, but we're part of a pool that does play the middleman in effect. So we don't control our own destiny when it comes to the power plant.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think if we just build a power plant, then we just shut off everybody else and it's just us. And that's not the way that it works. All that grid is linked together everywhere, and it's just.
And that's the interconnection that was mentioned during the presentation. We would require an interconnection, would require interconnection agreements, but with that interconnection also comes a loss of control, if you will. That interconnection determines when you're producing and where your power actually comes from that day. And oh, by the way, those costs don't include interconnection. The 135 doesn't include any additional infrastructure we would have to put in. That's just the power plant itself. So again, can we pay for it? Probably. I'm most confident that we could figure out a way to pay for it without having to go into the citizens for an increase in taxes, for a vote to increase taxes. I am less confident that we would solve the problem of lowering my rates, and I am least confident that it's the now part of the situation.
We're still not really, I mean, we're not talking about, we're not talking about the fact that we still have to build a substation.
We would still require a substation. We would still require a wastewater treatment plant. We would still require what else? What was the other one? A landfill. Sorry, Jamie's sitting right there. I'm sorry. We still require a landfill. So there are a lot of competing demands that, of which we're talking about 10 million, 10, $15 million tops. This is a competing demand that would cost obviously close to 135 to 150 million dollars. So instead of, like y'all were talking about, instead of something breaking and costing $1 million or $2 million, something's going to break and it's going to cost tens of millions.
I'm having a hard time personally seeing the reward risk. But at least now, do I think it's a good idea? I think it'd be a cool idea. I just don't think it's the right time. I think we've got so many other things that are more pressing.
To me, it's a lot more important to knock out, to solve the deferred maintenance issues that we've got. You know, and I think if you can tackle those deferred, issues, I think, that may serve a better purpose, possibly lowering some utility rates in the long run. Because part of that deferred maintenance is gonna be, cutting back on water leak issues. We spend money on that every year, just on leaks and waste.
Well, and if you want to start talking line loss, I'm sure Blakely will talk your ear off about line loss of buried wire.
Yeah, and that's where, that was my next thing. I mean, we spend the money to correct those issues that has to be done. So if we can ramp that up and figure out a way to do that sooner than later, maybe we take that line loss from 10% to 5%. And that's significant, that now there is some savings there, not only on electric, but on water as well.
Well, if I can, without sounding fatalistic, some of the comments and some of the projects you heard yesterday, you heard it from Matt when it comes to pumps. The deferred maintenance, the issues that come up with deferred maintenance, we are able to Band-Aid now. We're able to put a patch on something. I would hypothesize, I present to you the idea that within the next 5 years, and that's probably conservative, this isn't going to be deferred. It's broke and there's no way to fix it. And now you have to replace it. Out of cycle, out of plan. And now we're into our reserves. And once that reserve money is spent, it's gone. It takes years to build up our reserves, and Robin can go through that with you if you'd like. But and that's outside of, God forbid, knock on wood, something catastrophic happening in town. Claremore spent $17 million on their tornado damage. We don't have $17 million in reserves. We have maybe less than half of that in total reserves. So there's again, I'm not trying to be fatalistic, but there's deferred maintenance that is getting to the breaking point, or we can't fix it anymore, a la a pump that they don't make the parts for it anymore, period. And we can't pay people enough to custom make the part. So, it becomes now we're replacing this stupid pump for $75,000 where we've paid $4,000 or $5,000 each year for the past 10 years to fix it. And if we had just bit the bullet and replaced it when we should have, but here we are. And again, it's not.
That's my concern on the reserve part, with you guys as well. Where would you, I know where we would like to see that reserve, but what is your goal for that reserve? Because when I'm transferring money to these other funds, some of that could be going into that reserve. So if you fund all of this, whatever option you choose, then that's $600,000 that's going from SMA to capital improvement to fund.
Can I see option 1 again? See 2 and 3.
Brad, did you have a thought about the power replacement? Really, I mean, I'm with Josh, I think that, any avenue that we can explore that gives the city more control puts us and citizens in a better position. But I just don't think the city's in a financial position that where it makes sense to roll the dice on something like that, because the risk to reward is not there as far as I'm concerned, and then spending $120,000 for a feasibility study, or spending that money to get the lift and equipment that the departments need to be more effective and efficient. I'm choosing not to study. Yeah. I would rather spend the money on getting the guys, gals, what they need to provide services. What we expect.
It pretty much
It's a
sounds
nice
to me like
idea,
we're all in agreement on that portion. At least for now. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that's something that we can always bring back up. There was one item that was not on here on anything, so I'll be the first one to yank an item from the list. Fire department's not here. Oh, there we go. The washing machine stuff for the bunk gear.
That's, it's proposed to be funded out of the, yes, sir. So,
They put it in their budget.
so these, all on slides 29 and 30, all of these are funded. And theirs is right there and coming out of the fire department fund. And that's from the county tax, their chunk of the county fire department tax.
Okay, my mistake there. Never mind. I want you to get your washing machine. That's gonna show you have to go to the Smith. Do that.
So if I'm hearing correctly, we don't want to do the feasibility study. How do we feel about any of the other options or any of the other items on the list? I guess I should back up. Overall option, which way are we leaning? And then,
Personally, I'm leaning to option 2. I think the Badger Lee thing, obviously it needs to be done, but I think that needs to be done. Hopefully something we can come out from discussions later today on a plan for infrastructure. It's just hard for me to justify removing everything else and just getting one thing done. I think it's more important that, you know, nutrition center's gotta have a roof.
Yeah.
I mean, in my opinion, that probably needs to be in the other category of, you know, however you put that.
must funds.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't see a way around that. I kind of feel the same way about the aeration basin stuff. I mean, it just, and obviously a lot of that other stuff is needed. I mean, Stephen talked about the last item on there, the SCADA stuff. I mean, you know, you can't take chances on people's lives. Yeah, I just, to me, that's a must. I don't see any way to not choose option 2 for myself. It just seems like there's a little bit more bang for your buck in option 2. When you get down to the, you know, to the branch portion at the bottom that, you know, basically just gives us a little bit more to add and you know, tackles this lease deal. I'm a little, you know, still trying to grasp the lease thing and how that's gonna play out. But I did talk to another couple of people that cities have had experience with this, and it's worked well so far. One of them was about 3 years and 2 or 3 years into it. Um, So that's probably, in all honesty, it's a little early to tell, but so far it's worked okay for them. I think we'll have an opportunity to purchase some of those vehicles at the end of those 5-year leases. I think that will probably end up making sense. Because there's a lot of vehicles that we have that don't necessarily need to be within 5 years. We've got a lot that don't put a lot of miles on them. So we may figure out over time that, hey, we're better off buying this one, because we know we can keep this one for 15 years or whatever. But there's also a lot of vehicles that do end up needing to be replaced. I'm okay with tackling that. I think staff's done due diligence on researching this, and you're paid to present those decisions and stand behind them, so don't mess it up. But I like some of the other, projects there that we'd be able to get. I think the GPS locator is important. I think we've got a lot of issues with that, needing to get all those mapping updated on that kind of stuff. I do think, it's, most people, don't understand the airport side of things, but even that insulation on the maintenance hangar, that's important. That plays a role, in assisting out there. It's not a lot of money, but it does make a big difference in the long run. So I think, just for me, I think option 2 and using the branch part is where I'm leaning. If I had my druthers, there's probably a couple of things I'd pull out and a couple of things I'd add, but man, it's just splitting hairs, and I'm not.
Well, sorry, that's what we're here for. If there's
Yeah.
things we want to swap out, we can, but
Yeah, and I get that, but I also have faith in the staff that y'all have gone through these, but I'm willing to entertain that discussion if anybody else had anything that they were looking
That
at.
branch, is that what Keith Miller was talking about, getting that survey done to get the water out of here?
no, sir.
That's funded, right?
He just
No.
called it the branch.
That's a grant. We're looking for a grant to help us with that.
It's not here.
That's not here. That's a $200,000 project by itself.
Okay.
We had a company come in and give us a courtesy look, for lack of a better term, and they broke it up into 3 different smaller surveys. You got the east side of the city, Rock Branch in the middle, and then the west side of the city as well. Split it up into 3 different surveys, come together, put that into one. That was their proposal, and that's a $200,000 engineering study.
That's a huge.
Am I misunderstanding the way that's written there? The branch substitutes for something else, right? Choose
The branch substitutes instead of buying the 4 vehicles. So the must funds includes $234,000 for these 4 vehicles. The branch buys these 2 and leases 5 additional.
So we still get
Yes.
get the animal control, the booster pump,
Yeah.
PD.
Yes, sir.
I myself was leaning towards option 2 and leaning towards option 2, especially without the feasibility study and with the branch. You look through that list, and I was checking to see what items actually are getting funded through just a standard line item budget. And I'm glad to see a lot of that stuff's getting taken care of. I wish we could provide for everything everybody needs. I personally think our staff in our city is incredible, and they do an incredible job, and they deserve anything they can get to be able to do their job better. But looking at the big picture of things, I think option 2 is the way to go, personally.
Do we need an answer on this right this second?
Well, this is what we're going to do. I mean, this is what we need before we come out of this session this morning. We need to know, the staff needs to know which way you're wanting us to do. Because right now, we don't have these included. Right now, we've got the
Right now, numbers that we have presented to you all.
So if we change these out, especially if we save 12K with the branch plan, that's what we need to know today. Approve the staff structuring, approve the COLA, or if, and then come back to, and because that's what they need to produce the final product for June, the final FY budget to present you all in June. So that's what we need out of this morning session.
I'm leaning towards 2 minus the feasibility study.
Now, I've neglected to ask Commissioner Moody, are you talking 2 with the branch plan or without the branch plan?
With,
Sir, same question to you.
With,
I think I agree, I would hate to, pass on that Badgerly water loop because it's needed, but I think we can agree that it's a priority and we need to work towards creating, and work towards a solution for that problem, because that's definitely a problem that needs addressed, you know? So can, so our avenue needs to be, in my opinion, option 2, because it's right now the best option. But now shift our focus to what are we gonna do about Badger Lake? We've got to fix that. And so I would say option 2 without the feasibility study, and I'm on the fence on that lease park. It's attractive to get a couple bonus items down there by doing the lease park. And the fact that, we can cancel at any time. I'd be willing to do the branch part and give that lease option, the ability to prove itself. I mean, I'm ignorant to that. I don't know. It flip a coin on whether or not that's in the best interest of the city and whether it's gonna work for us. I just don't know. So, and if everyone's on board with it, I'll give it the opportunity to prove itself, but
That's the way I feel too. I mean, we may get into it and figure out, well, the original plan of trying to go 5 years, have 25 vehicles, maybe in 3 years, we say maybe about 15 vehicles is all we need to run off of this style, but, I think it's worth a shot. I think it will actually save us a little bit of money, so, over time, so. That's,
let me ask you about Badgerly Loop. Can we not break that up into phases more?
It's what I know now, it is permitted as a single project. I don't know if we could break that up under the current permit. That's what I don't know. Theoretically, we could break it up into sections, but
we can do sections, but it's still gonna be dead ends. That's what we're trying to get away from.
I
Yeah.
get that. But we can do one section to a high grade and then another section.
Totally up to you guys. How much you wanna fund it, how much you wanna do it, getting it re-engineered that way, re-permitted.
It'll drive up your cost to split it up into phases. I agree, but we can tackle some of it now.
Then you're gonna have the citizens are wondering why did my section get done first, and it's all,
I'd
you
rather,
open up a different can of worms.
I'd rather some citizens say, why did mine get done, than all citizens say, why y'all didn't touch it.
that's a fair argument. Right. I think we've got to figure out when I said we need to acknowledge the Badgerly and then put effort and focus, entertain the options and then work them out. Is that a feasible option? So can we afford 670? No, but can we come up with a plan to break it down, and can we get a third of it done for X amount? Yes, we can afford it. Okay, well then, that's,
so I'll have to, if I understand, let me back brief you for correction. We will approach the engineer to see, ask 2 questions. One, if it can be engineered in different sections, Obviously, the engineering, if I'm going to replace the whole thing, is different than if I'm putting caps or in places in line. We'll ask him if it can be done, and then two, what the permitting process would be if the current permit would allow for a phased completion, or if we have to do everything all at once under the current permit, and then an associated cost with some of these different phases where it makes sense. I'm assuming the threshold would be somewhere around 150. Is that what we're looking to break this into? That may not make sense to the engineer. I want to come to him with options and information that he's more than likely going to ask at the time. I don't want to come back to you with a $500,000 and a $200,000 phase. It's not helping matters any.
Cotton Mill said the current permit is expired, so you would have to re-permit it anyway, so you could separate it into projects if you want.
Okay, so Scott Neal's just full of good.
The second part of that is, second part of that is if we went till next fiscal year, if we went to 27, we could probably get some CDBG grant funding for up to 50% of it.
Let's do that, let's focus on it, let's work on the solution.
So we can absolutely break this. So what we'll do is we'll break that up. We'll get a cost estimate to engineer the breakup and do it in phases, and then come back either later this year or as part of this event next year for the next fiscal year to present options to get after parts and pieces,
50%?
Yes. Yeah.
to include funding options. Yeah. And if we
Now, it
push,
makes sense, George, on that CDBG to go after the max, right? And how much is that?
Max for sewer project is 600,000.
we're looking at water project.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
So you would probably want to just go ahead and do the whole thing instead of breaking it up, because you would want to max out that money. But then our match would be 300.
The way CDBG works now is once you fund a full project, it'd be 1.2 million.
So what we'll do is we'll present a plan. We've got it. Pretty much the plan we have now is a complete plan. Go to CWBG for that, and then present options, the phased in approach if we don't receive the grant. But that is next fiscal year or late this fiscal year. We'll have those results and then come to y'all with what we've got and the options that you're asking for.
I think that makes a lot of sense. The grant question was about to be my next question. Ideally, I mean, we're gonna save a lot of money by it. In my opinion, that's the way most projects are that way, right?
Eat the milk. Do it, just like eating milk, boil the milk.
Okay.
Pretty much sounds like they're all in agreement on option 2 with the branch and eliminating the feasibility study. Yes.
Okay. Now COLA and structure. I didn't. You know what? It's almost 10 o'clock. Let's go ahead and take a break. Take a quick break. I've got 5 till. Let's be back in our seats at 10 till, or 5 after rather. Sorry. It's working. It's not working. It's working now. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you can start making your way back to your seats, please. There we go. So, gentlemen, the next session, go through the proposed payroll structure and changes. First of all is the proposed structure changes. Again, if we're doing the lease plan, then what we would do is we would only add a wastewater operator. We'd not add a mechanic at this time. Deleting those 3 tech positions. The positions are going away. No one is getting a pink slip. Those will be vacated through attrition. Renaming and renaming electric crew leader to electric foreman, reclassifying one of the landfill attendants from a current 6 position to a 13 position. And the timing of that would be when the individual currently in that 6 position starts training on the heavy equipment. And then all of the OP3 qualified folks out there would then start rotating through the scale house at the discretion of the landfill supervisor. And then taking a journeyman lineman C, moving them up from a 31 to a 33 and creating an electric lead position. And then we've got the additional movements below. And to discuss or to touch on a couple of points, last year we did not do much movement at the top, if you will. The preponderance of the movements last year were in the middle, actually, creating crew leader positions and then the mid pay grade positions movements. What this will do is this will result in a total of a 2 position decrease or reduction this year in total manpower. Again, that's what it would look like. We'd lose those 3 black positions and only gain the operator 2 in the upper right-hand corner.
Originally, when it came on, there was a discussion, desire to restructure the organization, have more tiered type, some more growth opportunities. Is this still fitting into where?
So a lot of that we were actually able to accomplish last year by creating those crew leader positions. Now it's not, hey, I enter and I'm here for 20 years until the head guy leaves, or the lead leaves. There's actually a little bit of upward mobility, not only in the positions themselves, but all of those 2 positions. I know it's hard to see on this slide, but all of those 2 positions will actually hire at a 1 level. And on the pay scale, there's ones that are straight off the street. I don't know how to do anything except for show up to work on time. Hey, come on, and we'll teach you how to do whatever those positions are. So they'll spend time as a 1. We'll hire them as a 1, get them trained, and as soon as they meet the qualifications for that level 2 position, that's what they'll move up into. So we've created some upward mobility both in the water wastewater department as well as the streets department, parks department. We'll work on landfill this year. But the issue when you get into positions that only operate heavy equipment, it's hard to put somebody in there and that's fresh off the street. We need folks that know their, pardon the phrase, but know their butt from a hole in the ground, so they're not going to destroy a $500,000 piece of equipment the second they're left unattended or cause significant damage to the facility. And then, of course, the electric department has their upward mobility built in through apprenticeship and journeyman status. But if we go back to last year, this was a lot flatter, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with anything.
Okay. So if there's no question on the structure, then the big lift is a COLA for the city. Which way are we leaning in this direction? And again, admittedly, it is a heavy lift. It is 4.5%. Why is it 4.5 versus 4 versus 3.5? 4.5 brings our lowest paid position up to $15 an hour. And I'm sorry, there's a fly buzzing around me right now, but there's $15 an hour would be the lowest paid position for the city right now. And then again, you see the options if we want to do a tiered increase, the effect on the quote unquote bottom line there as well.
And you kind of mentioned yesterday when we were discussing this, that you had kind of given people a heads up that it may be bleak a little bit for the next couple of years in terms of COLAs and things.
Well, the intent is 4.5% is a big hurdle, if you will, and shouldn't expect anything like 4.5%. In fact, the spreadsheet in front of you looks at a 2.5%. But even that, again, that is a planning document. That may even be optimistic if we look at other things, if we look at other compensation. Had this discussion deliberately with the FOP. Have talked to several of the department heads. Haven't talked to everybody in the same room. But the intent is right now we compensate everybody pretty much the same, regardless of your performance. So I'm paying people, I'm paying positions to be high performing positions. So how do we maybe pay positions to be median performing, adequate performing? You show up to work today. I'm going to pay you for that. How do I compensate folks who go above and beyond? Those high performers, how do I compensate them? So in a just generically, if you're looking at a section of 10 guys or gals, 2 or 3 of them are high performers, and most of them are going to be median performers. But right now, our compensation program, the way we pay folks and compensate them is everybody gets paid like those 2 or 3 high performers. Well, what I'd like to do is lower some of that expectation management to, hey, I'm going to pay you to show up every day. If you want to better yourself, if you want to push the envelope, if you want to do more, then there are opportunities to receive additional compensation, whether those are bonuses, awards, rewards for going to schools, things of that nature. Those are all things the staff is looking at to improve our compensation package, to incentivize excellence, and to reward. Really is a horrible way to say it, but I'm going to reward mediocrity with your paycheck. Hey, you show up to work 9 to 5. That's really the social contract that an employer has with an employee. You show up, perform this job description from 9 to 5, or give me 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 80 hours every pay period, and here you go. Your reward for that is your paycheck, and the benefits that come along with it. I got that. But if you're going to do more, then we should owe you more, and we should be willing to pay you a little bit more to better yourself, which gives a better employee and a better product, and I'll use those terms in quotes, to the city, to the employer. So that's what we're looking to try to do is as we go through this process, we go through a couple of years iterative process of growing upward mobility, a tiered upward mobility, and then absolutely including some kind of a performance bonus system, reward system, whatever it looks like to compensate those folks who are working extra hard and are willing to put in the extra work. And that may mean, to Brad's point, said it earlier, and one of the guys said it yesterday, as far as we're training folks just to leave, let's train them and pay them a little bit better to keep them. Those folks who are doing the extra training, those folks who are showing up to work, hey, here's your paycheck, I appreciate you. I appreciate your service. I appreciate you working for the city. If you're going to better yourself, it's an investment on the city's part, most likely. I'm going to pay for that training, whether it's CDL, whether it's licenses. The city's going to pay for that. You owe me a little bit of time, and I'm going to pay you a little bit more to keep you around. So that's the intent. That's the mindset. You'll see some of that. We just finished up she's not in here, Lisa. We finished up a group of us finished up the pay policy that includes some of the bonuses that we're talking about, the rewards, and recognition. And that's what we've all talked about, is just doing a recognition program as part of a retention overall retention line of effort is a recognition program that says, hey, and it may not be worth anything outside of the piece of paper and the recognition that that individual receives at that time, but it is a handshake, a piece of paper, something that, something very inexpensive that says, thank you very much, here's your reward, and for recognition for doing a darn fine job above and beyond your job description. Because again, you do your job description, you show up, here's your paycheck, thank you very much, I appreciate you. Does that answer the question? I'm sorry, I was a little long-winded.
I don't have a problem with 4.5%. I like the idea of bringing the lowest position up to $15 an hour. But with the caveat that we move to performance-based. That's all I've ever known in my careers. You get better yourself.
Yeah. I mean, outside of the government, the rest of the private sector, that's, it's pretty much performance-based. So I think that's a good transition. We talked about that couple, month ago or so in regards to the performance reviews and things that are changing around. And I think we all felt that was a good idea. So where I would say, just because I crunch numbers too much, historically speaking, well, take the 4.5, if we averaged 4.5, we would double our payroll in 15 years. So we've got to be making sure that we pay attention to that. I mean, we slightly more than doubled, I think, in the last 20 years, in the last probably 15 years. Obviously, some of that is warranted, but something that we do have to keep an eye on. So it's a climbing cost. It's for everybody. It's not just here. But every company, every organization has the same problem. The old rule of 72, divide a number into 72, and that's how many years it is to double. So if we had a 10% pay raise, it doubled every 7.2 years. 7.2% pay raise doubles every 10. So use that 4.5 number, and it's 15.5 for 16 years. So I do agree with the long range goal of the performance based, and I think, like Brian said, you're going to have some people that occasionally are getting 5% raises. You're going to have some people that get 1.5% raises based on the performance evaluation. Probably, I assume that's what you're hearing at. With overall, there being a lower average over time.
Well, and to be fair, we're not talking raises. So if I'm at a certain pay grade, I get a bonus.
That's
My, yeah,
other than a raise,
yes, sir.
depends on who you're talking to.
Yes, sir.
Um,
But it wouldn't be consistent, to your point.
So are you guys,
And there is, I'm sorry,
first option or second?
To me, when I was reading that, I don't mind the idea of the second, third option at all. The only thing I didn't like is we're only talking 15 people or 10 people. And I think that's a little bit, I don't know, I just didn't like that necessarily. Some of those, probably all of, if not all of those, deserve it as well. So I just, to me, if that was a little different, if you look at another option, then, like the first option below, and that came out to be a 50-50 type deal almost, or something, then that would almost make more sense to me, but I don't like the idea of leaving out 10 or 15 people. Was my thought on it.
well, and to be fair, so this is pay grades 29 and above. That includes both hourly and salaried people. There's 15, and I think I added it up last night, and I apologize, I believe it's 16 people. The number is still right. The difference 460, but it is 16. The increase, the 24 below, that's a total of 25 people would be affected, would only receive the 2.5%. And the difference between these two, this is most of, it does touch some of our linemen, would only get a 2.5%. It affects all of our directors, every single one of our directors. This affects a handful of directors. But all of our utility directors would still get the 4.5% in this one. In this one, none of them would.
Yeah, to me, that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but when we kind of had those discussions yesterday, I mean, it's gonna be difficult over time to get some of the skilled paid positions up higher. You know, we're effectively acting like a VOTEC almost. We're bringing people in and we're training them for years and getting them really smart and capable and able to do things, and then they're taking their knowledge and leaving and making more money somewhere else. So, you know, obviously that's gotta be corrected at some point in the future, but.
And structurally with how the city works between hourly and salaried, what you've got is you've got the directors are all salaried. Their foremen, their seconds, their crew leaders are all hourly. So they all make overtime. So some of the positions that you saw, well, shoot, here is it's a beginning attempt to say, hey, look, I need to up those director salaries so that I can move crew leaders out of positions. Because right now in a couple directories or a couple departments, excuse me, their crew leaders are making more than the directors are when you include all the overtime that they get. Now last year we had a couple of natural disasters that took a lot of extra time, storms and such, but that is a situation that we're going to come into here in the next couple of years where the crew leaders aren't going to want to move because they're making more money than their bosses are or have the opportunity to make more money than their bosses are. And that would be compounded if we're not going to include them in the 4.5%, because what that in effect that just shrinks the difference between the pay grades, the pay scales.
I'm good with that. I would prefer the top option.
The other thing too is, am I correct that, FOPs agreed to the top?
FOP has agreed in concept to the top, yes.
And I appreciate them being willing to sit on that. I think that's a big deal. Saves us some possible money.
So it's just the question was, is he confirming that the FOP has agreed to the top?
Yeah, we would accept that.
I believe there's people inside the city that. I believe we need to shrink in that gap between those that don't. There's some people inside the city that make fantastic things. I think we need to shrink in that gap.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying to an extent. For me, that, you know, I think I'm interested to see how the new performance review part goes for the next
I'm
year.
about that too. Cause right now the city's on a system.
Yeah, I agree.
So for clarification, additional information for you all. Contrary to popular belief, we do not make anywhere near what Tulsa makes. We don't make anywhere near what Oklahoma City makes.
Same goes for the mayor and council. by the way.
Yes, you all don't make anywhere near.
Zero from both of us.
Yeah, you all don't make anywhere near what those full-time elected positions make. And exactly, to clarify, every elected position, with the exception of the police chief in this city, is volunteer. You don't get paid anything. They're unlike some communities that give stipends or give meeting rewards or things like that. You all don't get paid a dime.
You did give us a sausage biscuit.
We did get a sausage biscuit this morning, so there's a cash box in the back. I'm just kidding. No, so yes, sir. While I agree that there are some folks who are fairly compensated, I do want to point out that we are not making anywhere near what we're accused of making. And the pay scales are all public information, and are easily rebuttable, if you will. That we're not making, you know, the top the folks in City Hall aren't making 100 grand.
And, you know, and I think we've all probably had somebody reach out to us with those words. I'll say the people that I have talked to about it, probably the most, have been older people that probably have been out of the job market for 15 years or so. It's a lot different world than it was 15, 20 years ago. Especially, it started changing, you know, before that, but COVID really changed the job market world. It's interesting.
And like we talked about a little bit yesterday, I mean, multiple year, we're not going to do everything all at once. And even if we do change something like the retirement plan, it's not going to affect current employees, and there'll be a transition or there'll be a transition period. So if we're going to change retirement plans, the folks above X number of years in aren't going to have a choice. You stay on the old one. The folks in the middle may have an option to switch between the plans, and then anybody coming in new is all on the new plan. So there's whatever we're going to do, it's going to take a little bit of time to ease into it, and to change what we're doing. So for instance, like we talked about the performance bonus, probably not this fiscal year will you see bonuses. We're not doing that. This is it. But it is my goal to have at least the directors be on a revised evaluation plan that will set conditions for that possibility in the future. Again, the 4.5% would be just that this year, and then no, in fact, 4.5% is larger than we've done in a number of years. But going just like with the, I will say just like with the electric rates, the 2.5% raise or 2.5% COLA that we got last year, it didn't beat inflation. Inflation's 3%. So yes, they are getting a COLA. Does it even match inflation? No. So are we being compensated wildly? I would argue that.
Good thing about creating some kind of a bonus structure too, in terms of in our positions, is bonuses aren't compounded. So somebody gets I'm making up numbers here, somebody gets a $2,500 bonus, that means a lot to somebody. But we're not on the hook for $25,000 over the course of the next 10 years because it's not continuous. And so that's, you know, and again, in the private sector, that's why you see a bonus structure a lot more, because you're not, you know, when you do cost of living increases, you know, we can quantify that out and say, well, over the next 10 years, this is actually a $5.5 million decision or so, probably more than that, really. You know, that's a good thing about the bonus side. I'm anxious to see how that plays out. I'll really see how that plays out.
Talking earlier, you know, there's been occasions where I pushed to have that employee cook off again, and I pushed to have the city have their booth at, it wasn't last seen it, we didn't do it this year at Diamond Days, but last year at Diamond Days, and I'll spend all day out there in a city shirt, act like a fool to make the kids smile, to try to advocate for the city and the employees. I'll argue in their favor at every opportunity I get. 4.5 is a big number. And I was kind of leaning towards the third option because I'm with Josh. I think it was on the lower end of the totem pole. It's unfortunate for some employees that are earning under 15 or whatever number we can come up with. I think the message for that third option would send to
the employees that we're training and we're trying to retain is probably a heavy cost. And the savings by doing that is minimal. So I would be on board with the first one. As long as, again, similar to the Badger Lee thing. So we're approve the first option there, but then we really need to shift focus on that performance base and bonus savings so that we don't have to across the board do that, but if I'm gonna pick on the jailers because from my experience, that is an insanely difficult job and to pay it on that is kind of low, again, in my opinion. But if we can throw them a bone when they tough it out and do an exceptional job in that, we 100%.
And that's absolutely the intent. That's where I would like to go. Again, it's an iterative process, moving folks through. Folks have worked. Folks have worked for the city for a number of years. Have worked for the city with a certain set of expectations, and I think we owe it to them to maintain those expectations. But as new folks come in, absolutely change those up a little bit. We can advertise a bonus schedule. Bonus schedule is an opportunity. Just expectation management. There will be cost of living adjustments. There will be pay scale adjustments that are necessary just to attract people in. That $15 an hour, if this is what we go with, that $15 an hour minimum wage, if you will, may last for 3 or 4 years, and then it stops attracting people. And that would go through the entire pay scale. Like I'm attracting folks in the front door, getting nibbles at jobs. We've got some jobs that we're having trouble filling now at the pay rates.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oklahoma. Yeah, it's not a good deal, because then it bases the minimum wage off of the coasts, and it's not. Anyway, but again, $15. That's what the 4.5% is based off of. And again, expectation management. Will we see a 4.5% COLA again? Not. I'm not planning for one, and I wouldn't ask for another one unless something weird happens. Honestly, just off the top of my head, I'd be looking at 1 to 1.5% plus the bonus structure that we go into. That way, the folks that are here, high performers, are rewarded. Everybody else that's here punching the clock is getting their paycheck, but that paycheck does keep up or does increase slightly, and of course there's steps as well. So as they move up for longevity, as they're here longer, they make more. So it may not be necessary as we go through this.
But like Marley said, I mean, pay today has changed a lot. Past 10 years, 10 years. And I believe wholeheartedly that you pay people to work. So, if you work, do a great job and you meet expectation, then you deserve to get paid for that. People say to me sometimes, the city makes too much money. I said, well, then go work for the city. That's what I would do. If it's makes your life better, go work for the city. It should be attractive to people to work there and stay there, because it's incredible benefits. It's an incredible place to work, in my opinion. And you find what you look for. So if you're looking for a bad experience, you'll find it. So I think it's a great idea to deal with that this year and then work on performance.
I'll give you one more example. We talk about how the pay change. When I first started in business and people would retire, I help them with their retirement. And everybody always said, I want to live off my principles. I want to live off my interest. I don't want to touch my principles. I want to pass that to my children. Nowadays, nobody tells me that anymore because all of their children are making more money than the parents ever. I mean, it's not even close. The amount of money that people are starting out for is what the parents are, retired at almost. There's just been that great of a shift over the last 25 years in pay and, just overall, inflationary things that drove that up, so. It's definitely different. Alright. Sounds like we're all in agreement on the top one.
Okay.
You mentioned whether or not this is a good time to talk about this or not, but, you got into the retirement plan stuff. You want to talk about that now, or what I want to talk about now?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Is that okay time? So, first off, I want to say, what I'm about to say, I want to have absolutely no impact on anybody that's sitting here. But I would like, with council's permission, to ask Brian and the staff to get with OKMRF on the retirement side and see exactly what it would cost us to do a transition out of a defined benefit plan into a defined contribution plan. So basically what that means is, instead of, right now, we're spending 11 to 12, 13% a year on average for the retirement side. And employees are contributing 7%. What that may look like is, instead of that costing the city 11 to 13% a year, that would cost the city 5%. So it would be more along the lines of a 401k style. You put in 5%, city's matching 5%. That, numbers wise, that works out a lot better for everybody when if you're starting as a 25-year-old, you work 30 years, work to your 60 or whatever, 35 years. You're gonna have a whole lot more money in a plan like that than you're gonna have in a pension style plan. You also have more control. Somebody works here for 15 years and goes to leave, they have, they can roll that 401k to their new 401k plan. It'd actually be a 457 plan, like 457 is just 401k for the government, basically. I think looking at the reason I would like them to work with them on getting those numbers. I think if we go out and look at a 20 or 30-year history with those numbers, I don't think it's going to save us any money initially, not much, because you're still having to fund that unfunded pension liability for the people who have been in the plan. And that's why I'm saying this would not affect anybody. But going forward, say new hires, they would have this other option, or that would be their option. They could take the lead. It's maybe scary if some people sit behind me, if everybody's freaking out or anything, but in the long run, you can put it up on the board and explain it, and it makes perfect sense. And it would save the city a lot of money over time because you're capping that matching side at 5%. And currently we're at minimum of 11, but we've had years that we have to do more because of that unfunded pension liability. So it may be one of those things where, and I'm making up stuff here, but OKMRF may come back and say, well, you owe $20 million to be done with this plan, so to speak, and fund, it's gonna be more than that probably. So that may mean, well, we've still got to fund this for the next 25 years at this amount, but the new employee stuff is now at 5%. So at some point in the future, whether that number be 15 years, 20, 25 years down the road, we're going to go and you can crunch the numbers and say, well, we spend, $1.2-ish million a year or something like that, 1.3 on retirement benefits right now. So maybe that for the next 20 years, maybe can drop slightly, or maybe it stays the same. But after that kind of period hits, now we're going to be going from saving, instead of 1.3 million a year for inflation over the next 25 years. So probably in 25 years, that is retirement, we're going to be spending $3 million a year just on the retirement benefits. Now we go back and say, well, no, we only got to do 5%. So if our payroll is sitting there even at 20 million in 25 years, now we're sitting there capped at 3 so it's something that I don't know that the numbers will play out and save us a whole lot of money now. But, you know, the generational side of that, making that transition, you can, you know, the pensions only work inside the government, when you can print money, basically. And outside of that, private business rarely ever offers pensions anymore because it's so expensive over time. The railroad, you know, back years ago, had to get bailed out by the government. That's why railroad retirement pensions are government for those back then. You know, the whole problem with, the automakers, you know, the whole bailout stuff. A lot of that was stemmed from retirement pension liability. So that's something, like all this deferred maintenance that we're going to later, that is something that it's gonna, at some point, it's just gonna get to be such a balloon amount of money that it's just gonna be absolutely ridiculous. I would like to look at the numbers on it to see if there is a way out, basically. That makes sense.
And the attraction to the new employees, you're looking at 65 total years.
Well,
So currently, you're looking, you come in 65 total years, your age plus the number of years you worked. So if you come into the city as a 20-year-old, you're not working for 25 years, 30 years, you're working for 45 before you can start, before that pension tops out.
and one of the things you said yesterday, I had to piggyback on it. When the city used to, people came to work for the city knowing probably not gonna make quite as much money, but the benefits, that's a great opportunity. Nobody cares anymore. When you're going out trying to hire a 25-year-old person, they wanna know how much money they're gonna take home today. They don't care, they're not, you know, it's not our responsibility to force somebody to save for retirement and force them to do those things that drives up our wages. Now, Brian kind of smiled at me a little bit there when I said it's not our responsibility to force that. We should be educating, but in my opinion, we should not be, it's not, you know, we should not be having to baby everybody to do that. They should be able, you know, we should be educating everyone, and they should see the benefits of still contributing that 7%, let's say, that they're doing now. But that's huge. If y'all are doing 7% and we're matching 12% going into a 401k style, I mean, would be absolutely huge. When you're talking about retiring in 40 years with a couple of $1 million, and you can't walk away with that right now out of the pension system. And I know 2 retirees over the past 15 years that have retired, marked the box wrong, lived less than a year, and their spouses got hardly anything. And I think a lot of people know who I'm talking about here. I mean, it's, that doesn't happen as much. If somebody is dead set on wanting a pension, you take that cash value when you retire and buy a pension. Anybody can go buy a pension. You don't have to do that from day one. So anyway, I can get on soapbox on that for a long time. But obviously, this is not a plan I could bid on. I'm not trying to get any money out of this. I can't have anything to do with it. But I think it's something that needs to be looked at least so that we can see the numbers. And this shouldn't cost us anything to get these numbers either. If they come back and tell you that it costs something, then let me know and I'll backdoor it. I can get all this information without them doing it, honestly. But it'd be a lot easier if they would play ball.
Yeah. That's something we should be able to do, like you said.
Yeah. So is everybody okay with that?
I think it's scary for these folks, but I've had
Well-
a pension before.
Well, and again, if I took what you're saying, it wouldn't affect anybody in this room.
I would like.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to say you're working for the city for a few
Yeah.
years,
Most everybody in this room is in the, there's 33 left on the AAA plan. That's the 80 now.
right.
I mean, there's some that's not. Kaylee, or yes, and Miranda. I don't know. Are you on that AAA? But you know, that number just keeps dwindling.
Well, and it's just, and everybody's gonna be different. It's a, you know, my thought process on that would be if that was something that even could work out, you know, somebody who's been here a few years or whatever, it still may make sense for them to get out of the pension and start the other.
Yeah.
But there's just calculations you can make on that. For somebody who's nearing retirement, it's not gonna make any sense. But I think it needs to be looked at, and give people those options.
Especially if the end result is more for the employee sooner than what we're currently doing. And then, oh, by the way, it costs the city less. I don't see how there's a lose in that scenario at all. But yes, sir, we absolutely. I know they were taking notes furiously.
And I'm more than happy to, be involved in that. When you get on the phone, you know, there's, we probably should have a discussion about that. There'll be some actuarial reports and things that you'll want to specifically request. So I'll help with that anyway you want me to. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
For that paycheck difference.
Yeah.
Okay. What else on personnel for you all? What I heard from all of you is that we're good with the 4.5%. Some better with it than others, but we're good with the 4.5% versus the other two options.
I think we're all good with 4.5% with your expectations that we're gonna figure out.
Move
a
away.
process going forward.
There's a better way to compensate than blanket COLAs. Okay. I've got 10 to 11. We'll go ahead and take a break until 11. We'll transition to the master fee schedule. If you would, please start moving back to your seats. It's after 11 o'clock.
All right.
Kim, if you would, double check as this comes up, make sure this is this is 15 May was the last time I saved this. So I think it's the most recent. Well, no, it's the most, it's the most recent. There's just an outside chance that I saved it to my desktop and
I take my share.
If you go to that,
no, this is, so we normally pass them and then they're effective 90 days later. After the first of the, it's what we've done in the past, let me put it that way. Okay, gentlemen, not nearly as many changes as we go through. It does do this. I can do it from up here. Okay, so it's just going to look a little funky. It is a Word document versus PowerPoint that we've been going off of, but not nearly as many changes as were last year. And when we get to certain ones, I'll ask some of the department heads to stand up and give you some additional background. Okay, so right off the top, we changed the open records policy, and bottom line is we're moving this towards we're reducing the video reproduction and pointing everybody towards the policy for some of the fees versus trying to put them all in the master fee schedule. And to answer everybody's question, 99% of the people that drop open records requests, the only effect that policy will have on them is fill out a form now instead of a random email or a telephone call. We're asking you to fill out the form. The vast majority of it is still free. In order for us to be able to charge in any instance, we have to have a fee schedule and it has to be on file with the county clerk. So for those commercial requests, for anything that would be disruptive, excessively disruptive to government functions, in order for us to recover any costs, has to be a fee schedule, has to be filed with the county clerk. And again, the search fees are going to be waived in 99.9% of the requests. If you look at between the act and the policy, it's hard to find a request that wouldn't meet one of the free in the best interest of the public categories. So, but the copying fees are still there, the reproduction fees are still there, but the search fees that received a lot of attention won't apply. But in order for them to ever apply, they have to be in there and they have to be filed with the county clerk. We also, going back, so this is the most recent. Kim and I were going through this late last week. For some reason, and we can't figure out why, the adult business license fee actually fell off the fee schedule 2 years ago, and we went ahead and put it back on.
What is the planning, what's the code enforcement on adult business? I thought we had restrictions, moratoriums or something anyway. Like, I didn't think you could legally, I assume when you say adult business, what maybe I should clarify.
A gentleman's club.
Okay, I thought we had that somewhere that said.
Or an
that's
adult
what
toy
you can
store,
anyway.
or
The only thing that we ever had was time restrictions. I don't think we can limit it height. We have time restrictions. How they could advertise.
Well, I could have sworn that there was some stuff years ago that even when I was on planning commission, there was some stuff that was done on that.
It was discussed, but I don't think they ever approved. Business itself, restrictions on the advertising.
this just fell off within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
If you go 3 years back, it's on the fee schedule. Honestly, it looks like somebody replaced it with something or cut and paste but the draft that I worked off of last year to produce last year's didn't have it on there. That's why it fell off last year. And now we're putting it back on. But it has been on there for there's a very short gap where it's not. Let me put it that way.
Keith, did they change? I still feel like there was something that was voted in on that. Did they change the distance away from a school school or daycare that one was required to be?
Things like that have always been regulated by the state. They do that. So there's a 1,000-foot distance, like, with, even liquor stores and things like that, all of those have about 1,000, they have to be a minimum of 1,000 feet away from school or daycare. Some of them use churches, but that's,
And we didn't make any changes to that 15 years ago or anything?
now the only thing I think really got put in place on time.
In 2006, their ordinance looks like passed pertaining to adult business license.
Okay. So that would be 20 years ago. 15. That would have been, I was on there then, so that would make sense.
You don't have access to 66-180, do you?
I don't. Kim's on her phone.
Pulling up the
I have a-
2006 ordinance that went in.
I can go forward and backward.
That's 66-180. That's the code of ordinance on it, so.
There's just a lot to read through. Once they make application, it goes to code enforcement and the chief of police. The code enforcement officer shall conduct and cause to be conducted an inspection of the public premises.
But it doesn't restrict the establishment.
I just thought there was something, I thought there was something that was done and for some reason in my head, I was thinking that they created a further distance. And then as we were looking at it, based on all the daycares and the schools and the churches, it was like, there's literally no way anybody could open one within the city.
If that were the case, it would be very nervous. You cannot outright ban it.
Yeah,
We can't detect outright ban it by our zone restriction.
right.
So, I mean, if that is the ordinance that's passed, we need to change it because we cannot outright ban it or affect it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying there.
It's just a lot to look, search through.
So we can come back to this. Give us,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that being on there.
Okay.
It's obviously gonna, people are gonna be, wondering why it's on there, but,
we'll go ahead and research it and come back to you after lunch with an answer, sir. Okay, fireworks stands must have a fire inspection before a permit's issued. That was a change, that was a disconnect between the fee schedule and the itinerant vendor license policy. So we changed that.
Yeah, that says they need to get out of
Yes, under the transient itinerant vendor license,
we need that.
fireworks stands must have a fire inspection before a permit's issued.
Yeah, we have to fix the itinerant. ordinance.
Policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still do inspections.
Yes,
We only did inspection part of the.
but it wasn't in the fee schedule, but now that's what we added. No change utility deposits. Electric services, this was another inadvertent deletion last year that we just re-added. These are the rate codes for the vapor lights. There's only a handful of these in the city. The rate changes are a very modest. You can see there 25-cent difference. But they haven't changed in over a decade. So we just bumped up the price a little bit.
We don't have the 175 lights anymore. They're all LED, they're all the same light.
Yep. But the rate codes are what's more important than the size light, but yeah. Okay. So moving into sanitation, we made a slight change to Kirby. instead of 32 plus 5 per additional cubic yard, it's going to be an even 35 plus 5. So instead of just being 32, it's a $35 charge, and then a $5 per cubic yard. So that hasn't changed. It's just that we bumped Kirby up from 32 to 35. And then construction demolition waste. This is, we maintain the $41. These two actually go hand in hand, and I'll ask Jamie to stand up and clarify anything I screw up. We want to keep it at $41 a ton being the minimum tipping fee. Yes, for folks who bring less than a ton, that seems like a lot. But until the new cell opens, we really need to keep this where it is. This spring, if you were on social media, you saw a lot of folks advertising, hey, I'll come pick up your junk and I'll take it to the landfill. We are the cheapest landfill in the area. So folks are making money off of the ability to come and do this and dump relatively inexpensively. Or they're going to one of Stillwell, their Fort Smith residents. Bottom line is they're making money off of it, which is fine. Go ahead, knock yourself out, but I'm not going to help you make any more money from a business standpoint. And then the construction and demolition waste. This is what we're looking at. Is there's a lot of construction, a lot of demolition going on. That type of waste normally doesn't compact. And when you're talking a landfill, we're selling space. We're selling airspace. And if I can compact it, that can will compact pretty freaking flat. That can, as a chunk of cement, isn't going to compact much more than it already is. So we actually want to have a separate category for construction and demolition waste. Yes, it is more expensive. Are we trying to do any kind of deterrence? Sort of. We're just trying. We've got a lot of garbage coming in. A lot of it's construction demolition waste, and this is a very small attempt to slow it down a little bit. Jamie, did I miss anything? Is there any questions on that specifically?
I feel like we used to have it this way, and I could be wrong, but would there be any thought on having different rates for citizens and non-citizens? You know, if
So we had talked about that, but again, after we start with a new cell, absolutely. We really don't want to take any steps that will increase the flow of waste into the landfill. And honestly, what we have seen is folks using those bills and again making money off of it. Hey, I live, my cousin, fill in the blank, outside, my friend outside, my organization that I know that lives outside the city. Now I come and they use my bill to show that they're a resident and they get the cheaper rate. Not that happens a lot, but it does happen and has happened in the past from what I'm being told. The utility account, a collection fee, that's actually a reduction. It was 40%. We reduced that to 30%. If a utility fee or an owed amount goes to collection, it'll cost less to actually collect that. And part of that is we just reduced that amount to 30%. A columbarium for cemetery fees. What we want to do is we want to simplify it. We got it had to do with lettering. We were woefully undercharging for lettering. Came in, we had a fixed fee, and now we're gonna sell you the columbarium at a fixed price. And then if you want it to be lettered, you see there the charge there. Lettering, if desired, would be at cost plus $10 and prepaid prior to the columbarium cap being engraved. Because obviously once you start, you're not stopping. And in layman's terms, that's the urn. If you're cremated, this is your urn space. Niche, excuse me. No changes to animal welfare. And really, gentlemen, that was it. Did have a question about the city labor and equipment fees. The city doesn't rent equipment. We obviously don't rent our folks out either. What this is this has to be adopted and has to be part of the fee schedule for any kind of emergency or mutual aid that we would charge for. This is also the foundation. These are FEMA rates, and this is the foundation of our mitigation charges when it comes to code enforcement. So if we have to demo a building, this is the fixed pricing that we go off of as far as personnel and equipment, quote unquote, rental or usage. More than obviously if it's used on private property. So again, that if we ever need to collect it, it has to be yours. So typically what we'll do is we'll use these again to figure out these fee schedules to figure out how much mitigation code enforcement costs, or we charge an individual or put liens on properties, things of that nature. But did have a question about that and wanted to clarify. Did want to spend just a second because 'tis the season and to confirm with everybody that yes, there are pool charges on here under the recreation city facility fees. Municipal fee is good Lord. City municipal swimming pool admittance fee. Children under 2 are free. First child from 2 to 12 is $3. Additional children from 2 to 12 are $2. Teenagers 13 to 16 are $4. 17 and above are $5. Those are daily charges. Pool pass for a single individual is $40 per season. We also have family season passes. So for $80, you get 1 adult and 2 children of any age. For an additional $15 per any child from 2 to 12, additional $20, teenagers from 13 to 16, $40 additional will be every additional adult. And yes, we are taking private parties for $400. That was an increase over the previous pool because lifeguards have gotten more expensive. But the private pool party is the $400.
Cool, really.
That's available on the website.
That is available on the website. You can sign up on the website, or as we open this weekend, you can sign up for season passes and pay for season passes this weekend as well. And we will be open from 12 to, where'd Les go? From 12 to 1 to 4 on Saturday. We'll be closed on Sunday. Monday is 1 to 4. Starting Tuesday is our regular hours. And then there's free senior citizen swim an hour before those times as the lifeguards are setting up. Senior citizen does not start at 45, sir. I'm sorry. Any questions on the master fee schedule? If there's not, I realize that is what is standing between us and lunch. So at this time, it's 11:20. Let's plan on being back in here at 12:30 to get started on the afternoon sessions. And we need to go,
Lunch here?
yes, we need to go into recess.
Yeah.
I make a motion to recess.
Until,
Motion made till
12:30, please.
Motion made by Commissioner Bailey, seconded by Commissioner Moody.
Bailey,
Yes.
Moody,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Able.
Yes.